Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm the guy who knits, and today we are not actually in my room, we are on my balcony. So last video I think was a good way to experiment, and it was a good opportunity to learn what works and what doesn't work. And even though I think it went pretty well, I do see a lot of room for improvements. And I think one of the reasons why I am on here is to learn and to improve on myself in my videos. So I really hope that we are going to make this a better one. I feel like it's already a better quality when I look at the light on the screen, and also I think that we do have a much more organized way of doing this this time. So the purpose of the video today is to actually look at my yarn stash. As you knitters know, we do not have just a few skeins lying around in our rooms. We do have quite a few. And before we start, I do want to bring up something that many of my friends are not actually aware of. And it's actually the simple fact that a yarn is not just a yarn. There are lots of different thicknesses, lengths, and qualities and content and many different aspects of the yarn. So a yarn is not only just a thread that you're knitting with, it's actually rather important that you choose the right yarn for your project. So I just want you to keep that in mind when I show all my yarns, so that you don't just freak out if you are one of those people who are not aware that a yarn is not only a yarn. Because I do have very many different types of yarns and brands, and you might wonder, why do you have like 2 alpaca yarns, or why do you have like 3 wool yarns, or whatever it might be. So they do have different qualities. And I will bring up many of those qualities and why they are, unique, and where I bought them and how much it costs, like right now on the market, at least here where I bought them. So I will type it here on the screen so you can see how much it costs and where I found it and the name of it. So let's get into it. So I do have quite a lot of bags and, plastic bags and boxes with yarn here next to me. And I really wish you could see it, because it's like a mountain. So the first plastic bag that we're going to look at is this one. And keep in mind that many of these yarns are actually, planned projects. So they're not like random purchases. So I hope the plastic bag doesn't sound too much. But here we got a Drops yarn actually, and Drops is a brand that's, I think I can say that it's a bit cheaper and it's not that expensive, like if you compare it to other yarns. So this is a nice yarn, which is 65% wool and 35% alpaca. You might wonder, why do we mix different types of content, and that's basically because it's making the yarn a different type of way. So for example, the alpaca in this yarn makes it much more soft, and it doesn't itch as much as it would do if it was just 100% wool. And I'm actually planning to knit this for a friend together with a different yarn. These two are going to become a sweater one day. I'm trying to work through all of my projects, and it's kind of, I do have a lot to do right now, so I'll try to make it up. And maybe one day you'll get to see this sweater that I'm making. It's actually for the zipper sweater man from Petite Knit, and I think the pattern is just amazing. So I've done a sweater for me. I've not shown it on my Instagram yet, which you can also follow at KnitGuy. So, and I'll also link that in the description below, so check it out. So I used these yarns for that one as well, so it's going to be interesting how it looks, these two goodies. And the second yarn that I'm holding is actually also from Drops, and it's their Kid Silk Mohair yarn. And the mohair yarn is kind of, and it's pretty luxurious actually, because it's made up by, as I said, silk and mohair. And mohair is a goat yarn, so it's not actually from a sheep, it's from a goat, and it got these fine hairs, and it's very luxurious together with silk. And it makes this kind of hairy effect on the fabric that you're making, so it's very interesting. The second yarn in this plastic bag is a Drops yarn. Surprise, I like most of these yarns will be Drops yarns, and it's called Air. And it's not only because it's airy, but it's very soft. It's like a cloud kind of, and it also looks like a cloud. So it's pretty it's pretty squishy and very nice to touch, and it's very soft on your skin as well. So it's baby alpaca and merino wool and some polyamide. I think it's called polyamide, at least in Swedish. Nylon, I think you say in English, to keep it, tight and so it doesn't become too fragile. So I will knit a birthday present for my grandfather actually in this yarn, and it's going to become a vest, and I hope he likes it. So I'm quite far in that process, so I don't have very much left. And here we maybe have a very recognizable duo. So this is also the Nepal yarn and the kid silk mohair yarn, and it's also going to become zipper sweater man. It's actually for me, so I wanted to make a second one, and I think it's going to be very, very, very stylish in red. And actually that's all for this plastic bag, because it contains a lot of skeins, as you can see, and it's the same skeins that I've shown you. So, it's very much yarn that is needed to make a sweater, and hence the large plastic bag for all of them. Secondly, we have another plastic bag, which actually is the bag that the yarn came in. It's from Linda Hobby, and the yarn I showed you before is from Garnius, and I think it's a Norwegian store online that you can buy from, and I like them very much, and I like Linda Hobby as well. I think they're both great. So in this plastic bag we have a Drops Lima, and this yarn is actually the same content as the Drops Nepal yarn. The only difference is that it's a bit thinner, so it's actually, so it's the same yarn, but it's thinner. And this is going to become a vest, also a free drops pattern that I found on their website. So that's what I'm going to knit with this one. And it's in a kind of beige color. I think that's pretty obvious if you look at it. The light makes it a bit lighter. So, but it's actually a bit darker than it looks on the camera. So it's very beautiful. And here we got a second skein of Drops Lima, and this is actually a skein that I used to make a scarf and a hat for the winter, which I had on the needles for quite a while. But I love this, kind of reddish, dark red color, and I think it's a pretty good color for the winter. It feels kind of not Christmas-ish, but kind of, since it's red, I don't know. And here we got Drops Alaska. So this is actually a yarn that is 100% wool, and something that I will teach you right away is that this is a yarn that you can't just throw in the washing machine. This is actually a yarn that you have to hand wash, and most of the yarns are that way. For example, alpaca yarns are always hand washed, and the same for some merino wool. Many merino wool yarns are actually superwash, but this isn't, so this you have to hand wash. But it's in a yellow color of some kind, mustard-ish. And I had this yarn for a friend that wanted me to knit a hat for her. So I guess this is just leftover from that project. And we got some more Drops Nepal. And this is actually a project that I have next to me that is leftover, or not just leftover, but I'm going to make a second one. And it's a pillowcase that is also a free drops pattern. I actually think this turned out rather great. I am not that happy though with the zipper. I think it's turned out pretty wobbly and so, but at least it works. I think it looks great. So I have this outside on our balcony. So I think that's pretty much it for this plastic bag, and we'll move on to the next step. So this is a bag that I bought. No, I didn't buy this. Hey, I actually got this as a Christmas gift. So I love this bag, but I don't use it that much, to be honest. But I have it mostly for storage at the moment. And in here I got a few yarns. I got, oh, it doesn't look too good. Wait, I'll pick another one. Okay, all of them look this way. So this is a merino wool, as I was talking about before, and it's Drops Big Merino. It's a thicker merino wool yarn that is superwash, so you can put it in the washing machine, which is very convenient. It's a nice beige color, and well, it's hard to see really. There we go. And it's going to become a sweater for my second oldest brother's girlfriend, as I think I was talking about before in the last video. And it's actually the same yarn, so You might recognize it from that video. And speaking of my second oldest brother, this is actually a yarn for him. It's Drops Karisma, and this is also like Drops Alaska 100% wool, but this is in fact a superwash yarn, so you can put it in the washing machine. That's very convenient. And it's just regular black, and it's going to become like a scarf, but it's going to become like a tube, sort of very long, so we can just wrap it around, but it's connected. And here also I found a little project. This was actually going to become a hat for my grandmother, but as you can see, it's quite small. I don't know what happened. I followed the instructions. It looks great, but it's a bit too small for her, so I just keep it here as a artifact, kind of. And this gorgeous thing is actually a mix between cotton and merino, as you can see, and it's also from Drops, and it's very soft and nice, and it's kind of for the summer, because it's a nice blend to have in your summer projects. It's airy, it's very soft on your skin, but at the same time it keeps you warm. So this is actually going to become a scarf, but I don't know if scarf is the correct word to use. No, it's a shawl. It's going to become a shawl. That's the word I'm looking for. And I began on the shawl. I don't know who's it's going to be for, but I started, so it's going to become a nice piece of shawl. I wonder how much storage my phone has for this video. I do be recording in 4K 60 frames per second, so it better keep up with my storage. But I think that was it for this little bag, so now we're gonna move on to the boxes. And as you probably saw, I do have quite a few boxes, 6 in fact, so we're gonna start with this one. I think this sort of is a box with some mixed yarns. So this is not just a purchase, but rather a few purchases that I had. So what we can find here is, among other things, a alpaca yarn. So this is 100% alpaca, as you can see. And it's a very soft yarn, and I like this a lot. It's very thin though, so you can't make like big projects with this, or you can do, but I don't have the patience for it, so I usually do just small stuff with this yarn. It's lovely. And also, I think, by the way, we like knitters and people who work with yarn, we usually smell the yarn. I know it's a weird thing, but we just do. So this you can put in the washing machine, but it's very, very soft on your skin, and it doesn't itch a lot if you're not very sensitive to this kind of yarn. And we do again have a Drops Nepal. I realized I like Drops Nepal quite a lot. I think it's a good, a good yarn weight, and a yarn weight, by the way, is basically the thickness of the yarn. I think it's thin and thick at the same time, the perfect size. I mean, so I do recommend this yarn if you want to have like a quite cheap yarn, like a nice content mix of wool and alpaca, and you want to make the project a bit quick, so do recommend. And this is also a type of Drops Nepal, but it's not Drops Nepal, it's Drops Flora, and it's also 65% wool and 35% alpaca, and it's a very nice and soft yarn, a bit more woolly than the 100% alpaca yarn, but I think it's a good yarn to use if you want to have a thinner yarn but the same content as Drops Nepal. So it's in a black color, and I think I was going to make a hat with this yarn together with another yarn that I will probably find later and tell you more about. And this is just a regular acrylic yarn, which I don't use that much today, because I usually like to use the natural fibers instead of acrylic yarn. So this acrylic is like plastic, I think, so it's very soft and it's not itchy, as you might probably understand, but I think it doesn't have a nice quality, and it usually, doesn't last as long as a wool yarn. And then we have one more skein of Drops Big Merino. So this is the black version. It has the same qualities as the beige one I showed you before. So now to the second box. And this is also sort of a scrap yarn box with many different yarns. So this yarn, or the amount that I have left of it, is actually from a purchase from from Linda Hobby, and I think it's from Malabrigo. I'm not sure. I'll put it here as you know. But it's a very soft yarn. It's a super wash merino yarn, and I like it a lot. It's quite thick, as you can see, and it's in a green color, and it's sort of, you know, different shades of green, and it's kind of silky as well. Actually, it's very shiny and nice looking. Some more drops Alpakka, some more cotton merino. This is actually the skein I was looking for before, that I'm going to knit a hat together with drops Flora. This is I don't remember exactly the percentage of content in this yarn, but I know it's alpaca and silk. So the fluffiness is alpaca, and the thread itself that keeps it together is silk. And silk is very strong, so it keeps the fibers together much good. So this is actually also a merino wool from Malabrigo, and it's a much thinner yarn, as you can see. I don't get it to focus, but you can see like the colors anyway, I think. So it's like a mix of blue, green, and sort of almost pink color in this, and I think it's very beautiful. But I can't make myself knit up this yarn because it's so thin, and I don't know what I should knit with it, but I keep it here so that I can knit with it whenever I want, I guess. Here we also got a different type of merino wool yarn, so this is much more woolly, I would say. So as you can see, there are fibers sticking out of the yarn, so it makes a more hairy version of merino wool. So I like this a lot too. It's actually from a project that I made for my teacher, who ordered a pair of, not gloves, I don't know what you call them, like wrist warmers. Yeah, I think that's the word. And it's in a green color, and I think it's beautiful. More acrylic yarn, more drops Karisma. And now we're coming to something that is a bit more special. So this is a Swedish wool that I bought from, or I don't remember what the store is called, but I bought it in Vadstena or Vadstena, it depends on how you pronounce it. And it was a nice lady in the store which sold this to me, and it's a yarn from ULLCENTRUM, so that's a Swedish brand, I guess. And it's from, I think it's Gotland wool, and Gotland is an island in Sweden, so it smells very woolly. So yeah, I like it, but it's a bit thin, as you can see, or it's decent, but it's a bit thin for me. So, and the rest seems to be drops Karisma in black. So we'll move on to the next box. So here we have my second last purchase, which is a as you probably know by now, a kid silk mohair yarn, which is in kind of a, I think it's supposed to be some kind of brown, but it's more like orange brown, beige kind of, I don't know. And this new yarn that I haven't shown you, drops soft tweed, and it's a tweed yarn, as you can hear. And a tweed yarn is basically that it has a bit of bumps in it, or whatever you should call this, and you see these kind of, not pickles, that's something else, but these marks in the yarn. So that's what makes it tweed. And it's made of viscose, the tweed parts. And this is a wool yarn with 50% wool, 25% alpaca, and as I said, 25% viscose. And this is going to be a cardigan together. So I think it's going to be very nice, and maybe I can actually show you the pattern that I'm going to knit. And this is actually all this box contains. There are quite a lot of skeins for this project. Okay, so this box is actually quite empty, but there are a few yarns in here. This one you might recognize. It's the same yarn as the one I showed you before that I'm going to knit a hat from. But this is like a red version, or like at least in Sweden we say wine red, but I don't think you say that in English. I think it's more like Bordeaux kind of color. And I'm going to knit these two together sometime. I don't know when. I can make myself do it. So, and this is a leftover from the project that I made this baby set from. And you can see it on my Instagram. I have a post there where I posted a pair of socks and a cardigan that I made from a pattern, both from drops, which are the socks, and a pattern from Svarta Fåret, which is I think it's a Swedish brand. And I actually think it was quite successful project. And this is also a leftover skein of drops kid silk mohair, and I made this for my zipper sweater man, which I have finished, but I haven't weaved in the thread, so I'll have to do that sometime. Let's move on to the next box. So now we're actually beginning to look at the yarn that I collected yesterday, which I think is so exciting because this is a more luxurious yarn. What we have here is Dale yarn, their natural lanolin wool yarn, and it's so good. I love to touch this yarn, and it's in their espresso color, and it's just amazing. I'm going to make a sweater from Petite Knit. Right now, at the top of my head, I can't actually remember what the name is for the sweater, but I'll show you here again. It's a nice sweater, and it's supposed to be in this green color, but I thought, why not do my own color? So I figured I'd just do it in this espresso color, which I love. Actually, there's not very much left to show. This particular box is just a box full of these yarns. So now we're at the last box, actually. And this box is also a box of yarn that came yesterday. And in here we got a few yarns. I do have this Drops Karisma you're maybe familiar with. This is kind of a grayish color. Beautiful, love it. I did knit up a vest with this yarn once, and that's actually the vest that you saw in the last video. And I think this is actually a better color than the one I knitted it up with. Other than the Karisma yarn, we do have a Drops Sky yarn, and this yarn I've never ordered it before actually. It's in baby alpaca, 74%, and merino wool 8%, and also a bit of polyamide to keep it all together. And it's so soft, and it smells decent, and yeah, I like it very much. So this is going to become a hat for my mother as a Christmas gift. So I hope she doesn't look at this video, which I don't think she will. Hopefully not. Then we have these two skeins of the Stora Alpakka. I don't know how you pronounce it in Norwegian, because I think it's Norwegian. And I do have this little skein of Alpaca Tweed. I've never ordered before either. So one of the reasons that I have these yarns, both the daily yarn and the Stora Alpakka yarns, is because I wanted to explore a bit. So if I want to make a more luxurious sweater sometime, or I don't know, a pair of socks, no idea, then I would know what yarns to use. So this Alpaca Tweed yarn is made of alpaca, as you can hear, 50%, 30% merino wool, and 20% Donegal. And Donegal is instead of viscose if we look at the tweed yarn from Drops. So as you can see, there are some little speckles in here, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. It smells gorgeous, and it feels gorgeous. So I think we could all agree that this is a nice yarn. It's expensive, or it would be expensive. So I'm happy I bought this on a sale. And we also got this yarn, which is 40% alpaca, 40% merino wool, and 20% nylon. And it's also so soft, smells good, feels good. Oh, I love it. So this is 100% going to be a sweater sometime or something, because and I just ordered one skein this time, but at another time I'll probably order more of these yarns. I will knit up like a sample or something to see how it looks when you knit it up, because that could be totally different from what you see from the skeins. So yeah, actually that's all I got, and it's not very little, so that was all for this video, I guess. I will of course order more yarn sometime, but I think this will do for now. I have so many projects that I haven't even finished yet, and I have more yarn, but this is what I thought would be fun to watch and to explain a little bit. So now you know what I have in my yarn stash. We'll see what's up next time. I do have some ideas in mind, but we'll see. It's going to be a secret. So thanks for watching. This video will probably be a bit longer than the last one, and maybe that's kind of obvious because now we're going to do the real deal. So if you like this video, I would be so thankful if you gave it a thumb up, and if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would mean a lot to me. I update all the time to see if I have a new subscriber, because one single subscriber makes the world to me. So I would be so happy if you would take your time and just like the video and subscribe to my channel. And also go follow me on Instagram at knitguy, as I said before, because I post there. I try to post there regularly. At least now I will try to do that. I do try to post pictures there of what I do and the projects I've finished. So if you want to have more, frequent updates, you should go to my Instagram. So with that said, I wish you a nice day, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.